The doors swung open with a metallic thud. 2 armed guards stepped inside, their boots echoing across the marble floor. Between them walked a woman in handcuffs. She was small, wearing a plain gray prison shirt, sleeves rolled down, hair tied back tightly. No expression. No fear. Just silence. Layla Farrow didn't look at the people. Didn't glance at the cameras. Her eyes were locked forward, steady as stone, like she had walked through worse halls than this. Someone in the gallery whispered, "That's her." Cameras clicked. Reporters scribbled. As she reached the defense table, the guard unlocked her cuffs and stepped back. Layla sat down quietly beside her attorney, Camila Torres, who leaned over. "You don't have to say anything today," Camila said softly. "Just breathe." Layla gave a tiny nod. She didn't breathe louder. She didn't blink more. Just sat. At the bench, a tall man in black robes entered, firm footsteps marking his arrival. The room stood. So did Layla. "Be seated," the judge said, voice deep and calm. "This court is now in session. The case of the United States versus Layla Farrow." Judge Walter Grayson adjusted his glasses, eyes scanning the room. Then he looked at Layla, long and hard. She didn't flinch. "This trial," he said, "concerns the unauthorized release of classified military intelligence during active conflict abroad." More camera clicks. A man coughed. "The defendant stands accused of high treason," Grayson continued. "And aiding enemy networks with information that resulted in the deaths of Allied personnel." Camila rose. "Your Honor, my client pleads not guilty to all charges." The prosecutor, a sharp-jawed man in uniform, stood. "The government is prepared to prove otherwise." Grayson nodded. "So noted. We will proceed." Layla stared at the floor now. Not to avoid the judge, but something else. Something far away. A screen to the side lit up, showing grainy footage of a dusty road, black smoke rising in the distance. Soldiers shouting. Static. Layla didn't react. Camila whispered again, "You sure you're okay?" Layla's eyes shifted to her, just once. "I'm fine." The footage ended. The judge leaned forward. "Miss Farrow," he said, "do you understand the charges being brought against you?" She looked up. "Finally." "I do." Her voice was calm. "Even. And do you wish to make a statement before the proceedings begin?" Layla paused. Cameras flashed again. The room leaned in. But she said nothing. Camila placed a hand on her arm, but Layla didn't move. "No statement," Camila said firmly. Grayson's lips pressed into a line. "Very well." He struck the gavel once. "In that case, we begin with protocol. Defendant, stand for physical identification." Layla slowly stood. "Remove your jacket," the judge said. "This is standard security procedure for all defendants with prior overseas deployment." She blinked. Just once. Then she reached for her sleeve. The courtroom held its breath. And though no one yet knew it, the moment she took that jacket off would change everything. The courtroom lights felt brighter now. Layla sat straight in her chair, hands folded neatly in her lap. The prosecution table rustled with papers and tension. Across from her, Major Eli Vance stood in full military uniform, face hard, voice colder. "Miss Farrow," he began, stepping toward the center of the room, "you were stationed at Camp Redway on the Iraq-Syria border, correct?" Layla said nothing. "Did you or did you not have direct access to transmission logs between American units and foreign assets?" No response. "Miss Farrow, you were the only translator on duty the night of October 17th, the night the classified files were leaked. Yes or no?" Silence. Vance glanced at the judge. "Your Honor, may I remind the court that willful silence may be interpreted as non-cooperation." Judge Grayson nodded slowly, but didn't speak yet. Camila rose from her seat. "My client has the right to remain silent, and we invoke that right now, clearly and without confusion." Grayson looked at Layla. Miss Farrow, do you understand the consequences of withholding testimony during trial? Layla finally looked up. Her eyes didn't flinch. Yes. Camila stepped forward. Your Honor, what the prosecution sees as guilt is, in fact, fear. My client has reason to believe her safety, and that of others, would be at risk if she spoke freely. Vance scoffed. There's no record of threats. This is a courtroom, not a stage for drama. Camila turned to him, sharp. Is it? Because all I've heard so far are accusations, and not a shred of context. Grayson raised his hand. Enough. Let's bring this back to procedure. He looked at Layla again. Miss Farrow, in accordance with federal courtroom security protocols, we will now perform a basic identification scan. Please confirm whether you carry any military tattoos, affiliations, or markers from deployment. Layla didn't answer. Camila took a step closer to the bench. Your Honor, if I may. We request that this be done here and now, in full view of the court. That turned heads. Vance narrowed his eyes. Why? This can be done privately. Camila didn't look at him. Because the truth shouldn't hide behind closed doors. Grayson hesitated. The room was still. Very well, he said finally. Defendant will be asked to remove her jacket in court. Layla shifted slightly in her seat. Her fingers touched the cuff of her sleeve. She didn't speak. She didn't argue. She just waited. Camila whispered, You're safe now. No matter what they see. Layla blinked once, slow. And in that small blink, like something pulled from the edge of a memory, she remembered a desert night, smoke in the sky, and a mark given not to shame her, but to help her survive. The courtroom was quiet now. No one whispered. No one moved. Even the cameras had stopped clicking. Layla stood slowly, as ordered. Her hands moved to the front of her jacket, fingers careful and steady. Take your time, Camila said softly beside her. Layla didn't answer. She looked up at the judge. Judge Grayson met her eyes for just a second. Then she unbuttoned the jacket. One by one, the buttons came undone. Her hands didn't shake. Her face stayed calm, unreadable. But inside, something old stirred, like a door opening somewhere far away. She pulled the jacket off her shoulders. It fell to her elbows, then slid down her arms. Underneath, she wore a plain tank top, the kind given to prisoners. That's when it appeared. On her right shoulder, dark against her skin, was a tattoo. A black flame wrapped in thorns. Simple. Precise. Strange. The shape wasn't military. Not any known symbol. Not a gang. Not a unit. But it meant something. It meant everything. A gasp came from someone in the back row. Grayson froze. His eyes locked on the tattoo. He didn't blink. His face drained of color. For a moment, he didn't look like a judge. He looked like a man who had just seen a ghost. Layla slowly rolled her jacket down her arms and placed it over the chair behind her. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Grayson cleared his throat. Once. Then again. The courtroom stayed frozen. Camila tilted her head. She looked from the tattoo to the judge, narrowing her eyes. Is there a problem, Your Honor? She asked. He didn't answer. She asked again, firmer. Is there an issue with the standard procedure? Grayson finally blinked. His voice came out slower than before. No. No, proceed. He reached for his glass of water and took a small sip, his hand just barely shaking. Major Vance didn't seem to recognize the symbol. He looked annoyed, not concerned. Is this supposed to mean something? Grayson didn't respond to him either. Camila stepped forward. For the record, my client bears no military identification. The tattoo on her shoulder is personal. Layla spoke, quiet but clear. It's not a gang mark. Grayson turned to her. What is it, then? She paused. Then simply said, proof. The word hung in the air. Camila gently placed the jacket back in Layla's hands. Layla slipped it on without rush. Grayson sat back in his chair, staring at the bench in front of him. He tapped his finger once. Then again. Outside, a siren wailed in the distance. Inside, something had shifted. A line had been crossed. And though no one could name it yet, whatever had just appeared on that shoulder had shaken the man in charge to his core. The moment the courtroom recessed, Judge Grayson stood and walked briskly through the side door. He didn't speak to the bailiff. He didn't remove his robe. He didn't look back. Inside his chambers, the heavy door clicked shut behind him. He leaned on the edge of his desk, hands gripping the wood, knuckles white. That tattoo. It wasn't just a mark. It was a memory. He closed his eyes. And suddenly, it was 20 years ago. The heat hit first. Dry wind. Burning sand. The smell of smoke in his nose and blood in his throat. He was younger then. Uniform crisp, face hard. Lieutenant Colonel Walter Grayson, standing near a broken wall in a desert village. His radio buzzed with orders. His boots crushed glass. They called it Operation Emberlight. A raid to wipe out an enemy weapons camp. But that wasn't what they found. It was a village. Mostly women. Children. Some men, no guns, no gear, just fear in their eyes. He remembered the screams. The shouting. The confusion. He had orders to stay out of it. Secure the perimeter. Let command handle it. Then came the fire. The airstrikes didn't wait. The ground shook. A blast tore through a hut. Bodies fell. And in the middle of the chaos, he saw her. A girl, couldn't have been more than 10. Dust on her face. Blood on her shoulder. Carrying a younger boy, barefoot, running through the flames. She stopped right in front of him. She looked up. And on her shoulder, burned into the skin, was a fresh tattoo, the same black flame surrounded by thorns. He remembered blinking. Just once. The girl held out her hand. Please, she said. In English. Clear and terrified. Help us. He opened his mouth. But nothing came out. A soldier behind him shouted, "We're pulling back." Grayson hesitated. Just for a second. And then, he turned. He turned away. Back in his chambers, Grayson opened his eyes. His hands were still gripping the desk. He let go slowly and sat down. That girl. That tattoo. Could it be her? He pulled open a drawer and took out an old folder, its edges worn, its seal long faded. Emberlight, classified. He flipped through reports, photos, maps. And then he stopped. A photo, black and white, blurry, taken by a drone after the strike. A group of survivors fleeing toward a narrow canyon. In the corner, a child. Carrying another. Her arm marked with the same flame. He held the photo closer. It was her. Layla Farrow, was that girl. His breath caught. He had seen her before the world had. And he had walked away. Camila sat alone in the defense room, the courtroom long emptied. Her laptop glowed in the dark. She'd been scrolling through old files for hours. Military archives. Declassified missions. News articles no one read anymore. None of it made sense, until now. She zoomed in on a scanned document. Half the page was blacked out, names and details wiped clean. But one image had been left untouched. A symbol. A black flame surrounded by thorns. Her eyes narrowed. It was identical to the one on Layla's shoulder. She clicked through more pages. The file was marked Operation Emberlight, classified. Another photo showed a wall painted with the same symbol, faded, but visible behind rubble. A note at the bottom read, "Known mark of survivors smuggled through Resistance Corridor Z. Subjects unaccounted for. Believed neutralized or inactive." Camila leaned back, breath caught in her throat. This wasn't a gang mark. This wasn't rebellion. This was survival. The knock on the door was soft. She turned. Layla stood there, half in shadow, jacket back on. Quiet as always. Camila gestured toward the chair. "Come in." Layla stepped inside but didn't sit. Camila closed the laptop. "I found it. The tattoo. It's real. It's military. But not ours." Layla said nothing. Camila continued, her voice low. "It's tied to a rescue corridor used during Emberlight. People who wore that mark weren't enemies. They were witnesses. Survivors." A long pause. Then Layla spoke. "We were supposed to be dead." Camila's breath hitched. "What do you mean?" Layla looked down at her hands. "They cleared the village. Claimed it was enemy territory. But we weren't fighters. We were translators. Locals helping them understand what the others were saying. I was 12. Camila waited. They told us to stay inside while they secured the area. Then came the airstrikes. Fire everywhere. My little brother couldn't walk. So I ran. Someone took us in. A resistance group. They gave us food. Water. A mark. To keep us safe if we were found." Camila nodded slowly. "The tattoo. It meant we saw something we weren't supposed to. And you never told anyone?" Layla's jaw clenched. "I did. Years later. I gave my files to a human rights group. I thought it would matter." "Is that why you're here now?" Layla nodded once. "They called me a traitor for telling the truth." Camila sat with that. The silence. The weight. Then she stood and walked over. Gently touched Layla's shoulder. "You're not a traitor," she said. "You're a witness they wanted erased." Layla met her eyes for the first time that day. "They'll try again," she said softly. "Then we won't let them." The small meeting room was quiet. One buzzing light above. A file cabinet humming faintly in the corner. Camila placed a fresh cup of water on the table. Layla sat across from her, arms resting on the wood, jacket still covering her tattoo. She looked tired, but not weak. Camila leaned forward gently. "We don't have to go into detail. Just what you're ready to share." Layla stared at the cup. "It started with a radio transmission," she said, voice calm. Camila said nothing. She waited. "I was stationed as a translator. Temporary contract. They needed someone who spoke Kurdish and Arabic. I was fast. I kept my head down. I didn't ask questions." She shifted, eyes unfocused. "But then I started hearing things that didn't match the reports." "Like what?" Layla glanced up. "Units were being told to clear areas marked hostile. But I knew those places. I translated documents from those families. They weren't fighters. They were farmers. Teachers. Children." She paused. "I flagged it. Told my superior. He told me to forget it." Camila listened, face still. A week later, Emberlight began. I wasn't warned. They said we were just observing. By nightfall, the village was burning. Bodies, in the road. Screams. I hid in the back of a supply truck with a hard drive. It had everything, logs, audio, photos. Proof. "And you got out?" Layla nodded slowly. "I jumped out near the mountains. Walked for 2 days. Found a safe house, locals who had helped Western units in the past. They were marked. The tattoo. It wasn't rebellion. It meant survival. If you had that mark, the next group that found you might let you live. Camila's voice was low. And it worked? Mostly. I was smuggled out. Gave the evidence to a contact with a human rights group. I thought it would make a difference. Camila already knew the rest. The evidence vanished. The group denied ever receiving it. Then Layla's name appeared on a federal watch list. She'd been called in for questioning, and never left. Camila sat back, eyes soft. Why didn't you tell the court this? Layla shrugged slightly. I already did once. It didn't matter. They buried it. Buried me. Camila let that sink in. All this time, Layla hadn't been hiding guilt. She'd been hiding the truth. Carefully. Quietly. Like a flame kept under glass. Layla, Camila said, if we present this to the judge now, he might reopen evidence. He won't. Why not? Layla met her eyes, steady. Because I've seen him before. Camila blinked. Judge Grayson? In Emberlight. He was there. Silence filled the room. And suddenly, Camila understood. This wasn't just a legal case anymore. It was personal. For both of them. The retired general lived in a gated estate just outside the city. Quiet, clean, and cold. Judge Grayson stood at the tall wooden door, hand clenched into a fist. He knocked once. A moment later, the door opened. Grayson gave a small nod. General Calder. The old man squinted. His hair had thinned, but his posture was still sharp. He didn't smile. Well, I'll be, Calder said. The Honorable Walter Grayson. What brings a federal judge to my front porch? May I come in? Calder hesitated, then stepped aside. 5 minutes. That's all. Inside, the walls were lined with medals and framed photos, salutes, tanks, fire in the distance. Grayson noticed one picture tucked behind a flag. Emberlight. His stomach tightened. They sat in stiff leather chairs. No coffee offered. No small talk. Grayson got straight to it. You remember the symbol? Black flame, thorns. From the Emberlight operation. Calder didn't blink. Why? I saw it on a woman's shoulder today. In my courtroom. Calder gave a dry chuckle. A lot of things show up in court these days. This wasn't random, Grayson said. She was there. She has the mark. And she's on trial for treason. Calder's eyes darkened. You should let this go. Grayson didn't move. What was it, really? Emberlight. I want the truth. You already know the truth, Calder said. You just want someone else to say it. I was told it was a weapons raid. It was, Calder replied. And also a cleanup. The kind that keeps the papers clean and the flags waving. Grayson's voice lowered. We hit civilians, didn't we? Calder didn't answer right away. Then, collateral happens. Grayson stood. She was a child. You saw her. You marked her. She survived. That's more than I can say for most. And now you want her gone. Again. Calder stood, too. His tone sharpened. Walter, drop it. You keep digging, you'll go down with it. You signed the same reports I did. The difference is, I don't pretend to be clean. Grayson stared at him. Maybe I did pretend. For 20 years. Calder stepped closer. You want to be a hero now? Too late. The country moved on. We did what we had to. Grayson walked out without another word. Back in his chambers that night, he unlocked the file cabinet beneath the floorboard. Inside, old papers, names, flight logs, radio transcripts. He spread them across his desk. His hands moved carefully, matching dates, checking call signs. His eyes scanned redacted memos with shaking focus. And then, one page stopped him. A photo. Surveillance still. A girl carrying a boy through smoke. Same dark eyes. Same face. Layla Farrow. She had survived. He had walked away. Now, she was back. And this time, she was standing in his courtroom. The courtroom buzzed with whispers as people filed into their seats. Journalists, officers, law students, everyone seemed tense. Cameras blinked red. Layla sat at the defense table, calm but watchful. Camila adjusted her files. She leaned in. Today's the day. Layla didn't respond. But her fingers lightly touched the edge of her jacket sleeve. The bailiff called out, "All rise." Judge Grayson stepped in, his face unreadable. His black robe hung heavier than usual. He took his seat slowly. "You may be seated." He looked out at the courtroom, then down at Layla. "I have reviewed new material," he said, voice firm but quiet. "This includes field reports, mission logs, and archival footage from Operation Emberlight." The prosecution shifted in their seats. Grayson continued. "I now believe the tattoo in question is not gang-related, nor an enemy affiliation." Gasps rippled through the gallery. "The mark," he said, "is tied to a resistance corridor used by local translators and civilians during the fallout of the Emberlight airstrikes. These individuals were neither armed nor hostile. They were witnesses, and targets." Camila stood. "Your Honor, I request permission to present evidence that supports this claim." Grayson nodded. "Proceed." Camila walked to the projector, slid in a USB stick, and clicked to the first slide, a blurry photo from a drone. A child with a black flame tattoo, carrying another child through a burning village. "That's her," Camila said, pointing. "Layla Farrow. At age 12. This image was classified until last year. The flame tattoo was used to protect civilians who survived the massacre. It was meant to mark those who'd seen too much." The next image showed a page of military documents, most of it redacted. "This report," Camila said, "describes non-combatants being labeled as enemy sympathizers to justify airstrikes. My client smuggled this report out. That's why she's here. Not because she betrayed anyone, but because she told the truth." Murmurs filled the room. Major Vance stood, red-faced. "Objection, this is not verified." Grayson raised a hand. "Sit down, Major." Vance hesitated. "Sir, with respect." "I said sit." The room went dead silent. Grayson looked down, then back at Layla. His voice softened. "When I was a younger man, I witnessed Operation Emberlight firsthand. I believed what I was told. That what we did was necessary. But I saw children in that village. I saw fear. I saw her." Layla looked up, eyes steady. "I turned away," Grayson said, more to himself than the court. "I can't undo that. But I can stop it from happening again." He set his gavel down gently. "The charges against Layla Farrow are suspended pending a formal investigation into Operation Emberlight. The court will reconvene with new oversight." The cameras started clicking again, but slower, quieter, like no one wanted to break the moment. Camila turned to Layla, whispering, "You did it." But Layla didn't smile. Not yet. Not until the truth finished rising. The courtroom was full again, standing room only. News crews. Veterans. Students. Even people who'd never been inside a courtroom before now filled the benches. Everyone wanted to see what would happen next. Layla sat still, her hands folded in her lap. She didn't look nervous. She didn't look proud. Just steady, like she'd been through worse storms than this. Camila opened her file one last time, but there was nothing more to say. The truth had already been spoken. "All rise." Judge Grayson entered slowly. No papers. No folders. Just him and the bench. "You may be seated." He didn't look at the prosecution. He didn't look at the cameras. He looked at Layla. "This court has spent weeks reviewing evidence, records, and witness statements tied to Operation Emberlight, he said. We've seen that the mission, once labeled a clean sweep, was in fact a cover-up. The defendant, Layla Farrow, was not a traitor. She was a translator. A civilian. A child witness. A ripple moved through the room. Grayson took a deep breath. I now rule that all charges against Ms. Farrow be dropped, effective immediately. A beat of silence. Then the courtroom erupted, some gasping, some clapping, some crying. Layla didn't move. Not yet. Grayson raised a hand, asking for quiet. He looked down at the bench, then slowly removed the black robe from his shoulders. I have one more decision to announce, he said. After 20 years of service, I am resigning from the federal bench. The room stilled. He placed the robe gently on the desk. I stood by as truths were buried. I signed papers I didn't question. I saw a child ask for help and turn my back. Today, I will not do that again. He looked at Layla one last time. I'm sorry. Layla met his eyes. And nodded. Camila put a hand on her arm. It's over, she whispered. No, Layla said quietly. It's just beginning. She stood. So did Camila. People stepped aside as they walked down the aisle together. Some whispered her name. Some lowered their heads in respect. Outside, flashbulbs exploded. But Layla didn't cover her face. She didn't flinch. She kept walking toward the light. Toward whatever came next. The courthouse doors swung open. The sun hit Layla's face for the first time in weeks. It was warm. Sharp. Honest. A wave of reporters stood behind metal barricades. Microphones shot out like arrows. Cameras clicked in rapid bursts. There she is. Layla. Layla Farrow. Are the charges really dropped? She paused at the top of the steps, beside Camila. The noise swelled. A reporter shouted, "Do you want to say something?" Camila leaned over. You don't have to. We can leave. But Layla stepped forward. She looked out at the crowd, the flashing lights, the hungry eyes. Then slowly, calmly, she pulled her jacket off. The courtroom cameras had seen the tattoo. But now the world would. There, in plain view, was the black flame wrapped in thorns. Someone gasped. A few phones zoomed in. Screens lit up as the image went live, streamed, clipped, uploaded. One reporter whispered, "Is that the mark from Emberlight?" Layla nodded. Yes. No microphone was needed. Her voice was clear, steady. I got this mark when I was 12 years old, she said. Not because I joined anything. Not because I fought anyone. But because I lived. She glanced down at the tattoo, then back at the crowd. They told me to stay silent. That it was too dangerous to speak. That the truth didn't matter. She paused. But truth doesn't go away. It waits. It grows. Another reporter asked, "What do you want now?" Layla looked straight into the cameras. I want every other survivor to know they're not alone. A long silence followed. Then a phone somewhere buzzed. Then another. Camila looked down at hers. Her mouth parted slightly. Layla. She turned the screen toward her. A photo. Another tattoo. Sent in by someone unknown. Then another ping. A message. I was there too. Syria, 2005. More images flooded in. Shoulders. Backs. Arms. All marked with the same black flame. It was happening. People were stepping forward. Layla didn't cry. She didn't cheer. She just stood tall, wind tugging at her shirt, the mark on her skin catching the light. It was no longer a secret. It was a banner. Behind her, the courthouse stood like a stone monument. Inside, it had tried to bury her. But outside, under the open sky, the truth was alive. Camila whispered, "You started something." Layla gave the smallest smile. "No," she said. "They did. I just stopped running." As they stepped down the stairs, the crowd slowly parted. Not in fear. In respect. And from somewhere in the back, a quiet voice called out, "Thank you." Layla turned. A girl, maybe 17, stood there, tears in her eyes, sleeve rolled up. The same tattoo on her arm. Layla met her gaze. And nodded. Some marks are meant to shame you. Others are meant to be seen. Layla's silence wasn't weakness. It was survival. And when she chose to speak, the truth didn't just set her free. It gave voice to hundreds who had been waiting in the dark, carrying stories no one believed. One voice can crack a wall. 100 can bring it down. And sometimes, the quietest person in the room is the one who finally changes everything. If this story moved you, help it reach others. Like the video, subscribe for more powerful stories, and tell us in the comments. What would you do if the truth could cost you everything, but might save someone else?